Hello, Miss
welcome.
Hoenig. Yes.
Oh, Ms. Hoenig. Yeah. Welcome, Ethan Ganouna, or just Ganouna, as we
Yeah.
used to call you, or Nuna.
Or just Hoenig.
Or just Hoenig.
Yeah.
It is really, really nice to have you
Thank
back in my new classroom.
Yeah.
So we used to be in 505.
A little bigger now.
When did you graduate, Ethan?
I graduated Viewpoint 2017.
Mm-hmm. And where did you go to school after that?
I went to Dodge College of Film and Media Arts at Chapman afterwards, yeah.
That was a great, big adventure for you.
Yeah, it was fun.
But you were in the film department before for how many years? When did you start?
As soon as I could, which was, I think, 8th grade. I think 8th grade, yeah.
8th grade on, yes.
Yeah.
Great. Did you have a good time in either or both?
I had a good time in both, yeah. It was fun. I mean, I'm a very lazy individual. So the thought as a kid to watch movies and talk about it was very appealing. And then I went, oh, I kind of need to make money. So this sounds like something that's fun enough.
So tell me then, what are you up to now? What are you doing?
I work in a film adjacent industry. I work in live entertainment. I do a lot of things since I work at a small company. But I, title-wise, most closely aligned with like a creative strategist, like akin to like an ad agency. But I work for a small production design company called Trask House. There's like maybe 12 of us total. And we work largely in concerts, but also fashion shows, brand activations, corporate events, the whole run of the mill, but a lot of concerts.
How and when did you make the transition from filmmaking into this, what you're doing right now?
I started producing my own events my freshman year at Chapman with my group of friends. I was in a band, so all of us really enjoyed like bringing the community together and putting on these events and featuring other artists and bringing together vendors that we liked. So really I started then, and then I officially like transitioned into the job that I'm at now and working on a much larger scale, like stadium tours, arena tours, theater tours. I mean, we do a lot. Before, everything I was working in was like 2,000 capacity spaces and below, and I'm working in the total opposite end of the spectrum, and that started 2.5 years ago. Yeah.
So, because I remember I did teach you in 9th grade. I taught you in 11th grade, definitely
so, yeah.
12th grade.
Yeah.
And you were very much in film. You wanted to do film. You were very good at color correcting. At the young age of 16, 17, you already knew what you were doing. And then you applied for, Chapman's production track. So you were really, that's all you ever wanted to do. Can you tell me a little bit about maybe your thought process of the application process, how you got in, and then having done film for like 6 years of your life, you're deciding not to do it?
So I'll answer that last question by backtracking. It wasn't that like I felt that I'd more convinced myself that it was something I wanted to do because I didn't know what else to do, really. And like film was like the easiest thing. Like, oh, this is fun. I get to do things with my friends and like make people laugh, essentially. So I was like, okay, like I can roll with this. I can make this work. And going back to like being a colorist, I enjoyed doing color, not because like I enjoyed like the actual process of like, ooh, like I'm gonna make skin tones match between all these things. It's not that I found that particularly enthralling. Is more so that I really enjoyed color theory, and I was really interested in how color can affect people's like perception and emotion on a conscious and a subconscious level, and color correcting was the only medium in which I could communicate in that language, which is why I was drawn towards it.
I don't have a class on color correcting, so you did this all on your own.
Yeah, I was like, I know I like color fun. Where can I do color in film? Oh, there's color correcting. there's nothing here. Hey, can you please buy me this textbook? I want to learn this. And then
And that's what happened.
Yeah. And now I work with fun colored lights in concerts on a very much larger scale on video screens and stuff like that. And
Okay, so those skills actually somehow transfer.
yeah, I would say all of my skills from film directly translated over for the most part. Yeah.
We can talk about the skills a little bit later, but I would love you to tell me. So you decide to go to Japan.
Yeah.
What is the application process like?
It was a handful of written essays, and then a video essay. I want to say, I don't remember if there's a second one, but there was like one really big one where it's basically like, who are you? And in this video, you need to make it like there needs to be a choice or a surprise. And the essays were a drag. But the thing that they mainly look for is what makes you uniquely you, I would say.
How did you show it to them?
You weren't allowed in the prompt for our year. You weren't allowed to be physically present in the video, but you had to tell like a story about yourself, like describing yourself and like what you're interested in. So the way I accomplished that is I made a fictitious character who was a Chapman admissions person, secret agent who infiltrated my home and inspected like my room and my belongings to try to get a better understanding of me, while I had some voice messages, some voicemail playing in the background to give further context about what he was actually looking at.
Clever.
So
2 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, 2 minutes. Rocky, my partner, says it's the best film I ever made. It's also the only one that I think she's sat through the whole thing.
We can talk about Boyab stuff in a,
Yeah.
There's other films you made that may be as good.
Maybe. But they're not looking like, what's this unique thing about this person? It's more like people being able to recognize what unique qualities they have and how they can communicate that effectively in a creative way with the challenges that they intentionally put in front of you with that prompt.
Do they care about production value?
Not at all. Yeah.
Do they ever care about production value in school?
Absolutely, yes. But for getting in, they recognize that there are tons of people applying that have never had access or had the privilege to touch a camera before. So they're really not looking at quality or lighting. They're more so looking at how are you creatively like solving the problem in the prompt that's in front of you.
So you get in, and what do you do your first month?
First month, so first week, orientation week, and within that there's orientation and like a bunch of like film events where like all of the film school kids gather and like exchange information about like what we should expect of being at film school, and like a lot of the seniors talk. I end up hitting it off with a senior named Dylan, who made some stuff that I really respected, and then we started hanging out a lot, and then he pulled me in into his like crew of people, essentially of all these seniors that were working a lot in LA every single weekend because they were seniors, and they were just like already working in the industry essentially. And they saw that I was super down, eager to learn, had relevant experience already. So they just put me on every single production, and I think they loved that I was super hungry for it. I was the only freshman that worked like literally every single weekend except like Thanksgiving break, that first orientation week, winter break, and spring break. Like I worked every single weekend. So even my first month, going to your question, I think I had already worked on like 10 or 12 productions.
So would you say that that's not the norm and people should be doing that?
I would say I took it too far. I only had time. Basically, there's three things in my life at that point, right? It was working on film and learning and being on set. It was school and going to class. And then it was like my social life. It's the classic triangle of choose two, and I chose working on film and social life. So I would work Friday through Sunday, oftentimes Monday as well, up in LA, and then I'd come back down and spend the week. And I'd go to some classes if I could, but I mainly just hung out with my friends. As a result, I was on academic probation for my first year. Because I was just working so much, and I found, I also, my first year was just not as engaged with the subject matter of like all the introductory film classes, because it was stuff that I largely already known through learning already like a Viewpoint film, essentially. And I didn't want to like, it felt like a waste of time to repeat the same stuff I knew, and I'd rather spend it, one, making money, and two, like doing the things that I was going to school for.
And the only thing I heard was that you basically learned everything you needed to know at Viewpoint Film.
It gave me a great baseline. Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. Yes, we can say it that way too. But would you really say that if you hadn't gotten all the basics out of the way at Viewpoint Film, would you have been able to take all those jobs, or would they have hired you anyway? And maybe
I think they would have
other stuff.
I think they would have hired me anyway. I think if anything else, my Viewpoint film experience just gave me the confidence to know I can like go in and do any of that stuff, because like you're doing stuff that you've never done on like real commercial sets. Like I wasn't being pulled onto student productions. I was being pulled onto features and commercials and
in
music videos.
What crew positions?
It started off all over the place, but like whatever I could get, whether it was like just like a PA, which I didn't do much of. I mainly just gripped, or was an electric. Did a lot of ACing, like second AC, like being like as a slate person, it's an easy way to like, you're on camera all the time, you're talking, it's an easy way to like make friends with everyone else. So I was like trying to put myself in roles where I could like peek in and have time and like learn as much as possible. It's like same way with the grip. It's like you set up the world. You're hanging around until they flip the world, so I can go and peek in, like fly in an apple box if I need to or whatever. So those are mainly the positions I was working in on set, but I really enjoyed gripping. I really enjoyed shaping light, and which I guess makes sense.
Because that's the job with the grip, right? You will basically actually shape. The electricians put up the light, and the grips will shape it and shade it, and through that group of seniors that I worked with freshman year, they had a similar experience when they were freshmen. They had a group of seniors when they were freshmen that did the same thing to me, essentially. And then through them, I was linked to these like really like great people in the industry that were killing it, and I was working on their sets like really consistently. I worked a lot for this one cinematographer, Dave Cortez, who does huge commercial shoots and huge music videos for artists that I loved. And he would just like help out on other sets of these guys that I was working with, and he taught me a lot about shaping light and like the art of shaping light and all that stuff, and I found it really interesting. Which somehow plays into you being interested in color correction earlier on.
Yeah, because light is directly color, warm light versus cool light versus like how it falls on a subject and like all that jazz. I found really interesting. So I mainly, after all that exploration in the first few months, stuck to gripping. I worked up to like be a BBG, a best boy grip, just to be in the truck, just a truck monkey, just grabbing gear, like putting stuff away and neatly packing it in inventory lists and all that stuff.
Oh, you're welcome to do that.
No, thank you.
No.
And then by the end of the year, I was key gripping a lot of senior productions, and caging here and there on sets in LA, my freshman year. So that was fun. A good way to make money.
So if you wanted to give advice to our students in how to make the best out of film school, 2 tips. Top 2.
Top 2. One would be to like be hungry and go out there and get the experience that you want, because no one else is going to lay it on a platter for you. And 2 is to be nice, be friendly, be amicable. when you're working on a production, especially on feature films, like you could be working with the same crew for months, years at a time, especially in these bigger productions. People would much rather work with someone that is nice and friendly and they enjoy being around or is funny than someone who is like not fun to be around.
But is really good at their job.
Yeah, even if they're really good at their job, they will not get the gig, because the majority of the gig and the majority of how the way the film industry works and my industry works, it's all networking, it's all connection based. If you are a fun and friendly person that is humble and down to earth, you will get the most gigs through those qualities than your actual skill level.
And specifically networking at Chapman. How did you find this group of seniors week one?
It was part of like the orientation program where it's like you have like your normal like full school O-week stuff, and then you have like your department, like your specific schools activities, and it was a student-run networking event where it's basically just seniors trying to poach freshmen to work on their sets. Is really the long and
free labor. It's hands on deck.
So they're just looking for people who are fun and seem like they'd be down to learn, essentially. So it was just a student-run networking event during orientation week where they met in the lobby of like one of the dorms, and a few people from each discipline spoke some words, and then there was like little contact things that people were exchanging. And I found like the one colorist that was there, Dylan Hagman, who's like a huge colorist now, and he's crushing it. And then this director, Dylan McGale, who's directed like some Black Party music videos, some Young Thug stuff, like a lot of rappers like Pink Sifu and stuff that are rising in LA. He's like very, very tapped into that scene. And I just quickly made friends with them and then worked on their productions, and they pulled me on to pretty much everything that I was like physically available to do.
And it sounds like you were physically able to do a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I cut out pretty much all my classes.
Right.
Yeah, I made the space.
You don't need to talk about that. Okay. Yeah. So can we go back a little bit into the Film 4 experiences or the Film 3, 4 experiences, maybe 8th grade on? What specific advice would you give to our film students who are doing the whole track, but you know, they really, their main goal at the moment is to do Film 4. What is your advice for those kids who are doing the 5-year film track here at Viewpoint? What should they be focusing on, concentrating on?
Advice for the kids in the 5-year film track, probably just to have fun. Like you'll never, probably never in the same circumstances like have that liberty and space allotted to you to be creative in that way, especially for narrative filmmaking, which in the industry is very difficult to do, and only a small selected chosen few truly get to do and make money off of. So that would probably be my number one thing. That's what it was for me. Like film was an excuse, like, oh, like I would love to not be in class and learn boring things. I'd like to watch movies and talk about movies. That sounds really fun. And that eventually led me down the path that I am today, and made me realize like, oh, like I don't want to do boring work. I want to do work that's fun. And then like that led to like my fulfillment in life at a grander level.
And so specific advice for the Film 4s they have a tight deadline. Like they have to make a short film. They have to show it at the end of May.
Make it simple. Like simpler the better. And short films, I think, are one of the hardest mediums. Short narrative films, I think, are one of the hardest mediums for a director to do well, because it is so easy when you have extra time to write around your script's issues. But when in a short film, you don't have a lot of time and you need to keep people engaged for X amount of time and get your message across. So it needs to be really, really tight, and getting it tight is a lot harder than it seems. So really like viewing your product and your film as objectively as you can and cutting out as much fluff and seeing like how much you can get without dialogue, like how much, like see how simple you can make it is probably my best advice to people like trying to make the best thing is simplify, simplify, simplify.
Quite a few feature filmmakers are actually very bad short filmmakers.
Yep.
It has been proven that they're...
And the vice versa is true. Yeah.
Vice versa.
Entirely different format, entirely different audience, like, yeah.
Film school or no film school?
That is, does it matter? No. That is in the eye of the beholder. You don't need film school to work in film by any means. A lot of like the most successful production designers that I know were business majors at my school. But they were just hungry. They're down to learn. They're down to work, and now they're crushing it.
But you mentioned earlier that narrative filmmaking is only a tiny, tiny fracture of what filmmaking actually is. What area of filmmaking do you see the industry where there is work out there? Because as we know, Hollywood is shrinking. It's struggling with narrative filmmaking specifically. So where else can they go? Our students, I mean.
Well, you can do fun things for little money in music videos. That was my bread and butter. I love experimental filmmaking and like really focusing just purely on visuals, and like it takes the pressure off to some degree of like not making the perfect product because it's aligned with something else. It's aligned with the music, which I find direction-wise is much, much easier to work from versus like working from nothing from a narrative's perspective. So that's the fun option. You might not be able to pay the bills with it per se. Even then, even a select few, like if you're able to get good label connections or like artist connections and you're able to work with directors in that manner, there is a ladder there to work up with, but like it does not compare to the other side of things, which is like commercial filmmaking. Lots more money there. If you can ever get on a pharmaceutical shoot where it's like, you know, those commercials where like people are happy because they take the drug that they're selling and it's very happy, highly recommend getting on one of those projects. They pay very well and it is very low work.
Production periods that will pay you higher, but then you're going to have to get more of those.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you're basically running and gunning your roadie at that point. So there's the music video part of the industry, which is still huge because in LA is the capital, one of the many capitals of music in the world. There's commercial filmmaking, which is everywhere, but also a very large portion of it is in LA because it has the resources to actually like make those things happen, and it has that history and reputation. Narrative is still there, although it may be shrinking, especially like in a post-COVID, post-strike film era. A lot of narrative work is going into foreign markets.
That's right.
All the streaming services are focusing into foreign markets. Right. Netflix in particular is like really, really focusing on like Asian markets. So I have a lot of friends that moved to Tokyo and just worked there. I have plenty of friends that moved to Vancouver and work there. I have a few friends that moved to Mexico City and work there. A lot of work is getting outsourced to places that have growing and rising film ecosystems where labor is cheaper and they don't need to deal with any of the headaches that is Hollywood strikes and unions. Yeah.
The union system is not near as strong anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
As in here in the United States.
Blessing and a curse. Yeah.
Right. Anything I didn't ask you? Any last advice to our 17, 18-year-olds who are maybe going into the industry and or at the moment of deciding if they should go into the industries, particularly because we know that the industry is, especially in LA, is struggling?
I would tell them their strongest weapon is themselves, frankly, and being to recognize one's own unique talents and learning how to grow those and leverage those in any industry is going to be your strongest tool. Like understanding yourself, what you're good at and what you're not good at, and being humble about it and being transparent, like, oh, I don't know this. Like a director who thinks he knows everything is always going to crash and burn and make his crew hate him. A director that knows what he knows and knows what he doesn't know commands a much different respect and has that relationship of trust with his whole crew, and that will always apply to every other industry. Knowing what you're innately good at and like growing that and focusing on those areas will give you so much more leverage in your future career, whether it's film, whether it's live entertainment, whether you're working in like science or business, like literally anything else.
Do you suggest that directors should someone just concentrate on becoming a director?
Absolutely. Like if you want to be a director, you can concentrate on being a director, but going around and saying like, oh, hi, nice to meet you. Like, what do you do? Oh, I'm a director. Like there's a million of people like that say the director that don't direct anything. Like you cannot be a director unless you have the knowledge to direct all of the departments that make up the multidisciplinary industry that film is.
So do you suggest they try to learn some other crew position while in school, in film school, and outside of it? So they concentrate on something else?
Absolutely. Okay. You will not get work as a director like 100% of the time unless you're extremely well connected, you're a Nepo baby, or like you are one of the select chosen few where all the stars align for you. You should expect nothing as a director. And you should always, as a director, put as like many cards in your hand as possible. How are you to direct if you don't know anything about camera, anything about lighting, anything about blocking, anything about acting? You can't direct. You will be a joke on set. And I have seen so many sets where the director is a joke and doesn't command respect, and the production does not look good as a result of it. Like a director needs to command respect, and he does that in two ways. One, by knowing the subject matter as well as, not like as well as possible. Like he needs to know the script and everything better than anyone else. That's the one way you command respect. The other way is you understand how everything gets done, and you're able to talk to your key department heads in their language to make your vision come to life. So absolutely, they should have one thing they're really, really good at and many other things that they're dangerous in. They know just enough to be dangerous.
That is a good advice. And I think that maybe we are coming to the end of our interview. Thank you so much for coming in. Do you miss us? Are you going to come back again? What's going to happen?
I'll come back again.
Yeah? Are you staying in LA?
Yeah, I'm staying in LA.
What's next for you? Those are so many questions. Do you miss us? Are you coming back? Are you in LA?
I miss not having responsibilities. It's a lot nicer. But also that's why the work that I do, I try to make it as fulfilling as possible. Question 2 was what's next?
What's next, yeah.
What's next? Busy year ahead. Right now in the touring industry, this is kind of like typically our down season. This has ended up being a very busy Q4 for us. So I'm just getting ready for the next year of all these tours. April, March, through August is incredibly busy. I'm constantly traveling, working on site, going from show to show.
This is all in the United States?
For the most part. But like there are world tours. I mainly travel on site for everything that's related to screen content. But I'm involved heavily in like the initial starting period of like doing a lot of research on our client, pulling past creative references and coming up with concepts that our creative director and art director will base the creative, like the next creative off of with whatever information the artist tends to give us, which sometimes is nothing and sometimes is more than nothing. So I'm really just getting ready for that. And I'm also trying, I miss working at the small level that I used to at like 500 capacity spaces. Because like now I design shows with my team for like we did Blink 182 at SoFi, which has like 80,000 people in that show, and like going to that show and witnessing it is like there's a lot of energy, and it's a very powerful experience to make and like craft this thing with the artist and with our team for all these people. But I also just miss being in like a small space. I'm still very active and very involved in the like independent music scene here in LA with Minaret Records and Leaving Records, like a lot of these independent jazz labels and hip hop labels, Stone's Throw. I go to all these events and like I have a lot of friends in these spaces, and I wish the things I loved made more money so I could do it more. But I'm blessed and very grateful to be working at the level that I am.
Would you have thought when you were directing Boy I'm Stuffed?
Never.
Never.
Whatever the answer to that question is, never. I wasn't thinking much back then.
Okay. I'm glad you are thinking now. Okay.
Yeah. I do more thinking now.
On that note, thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much for visiting us for the whole day.
Yeah, of course.
You have visited a couple of my classes in the morning. You're going to stay for another one in the afternoon.
Yep.
You've just seen the film assembly. You were always a very important part of us, the film department and Viewpoint, and I would love to see you again. And my students would love to see you again. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.